Contenders, ready! Gladiators, ready! 3, 2, 1, the Gladiators!
Hello and welcome to the GladPod in association with Gladiators TV. I'm Dynamite and joining me this week is Jet and the Oracle. Paul, that's the name I've given myself, Dynamite. Please tell me that I'm the only Dynamite gladiator.
Oh, no, sadly not. Sadly not. Dynamite is actually a really well-known international gladiator from Russia, so I think you need to think of something else, David.
What a nightmare. I've spent all week thinking up a name and I've had like a long list. I wanted it to be beginning with D and Dynamite, I thought it was going to be the one, but no. Thank you for all your emails in about your own names and theme songs. I think we might have to do like a special one-off episode with just some of those because some of those were just brilliant, frankly. But diving into the mailbag, and this letter caught my eye from Tom Grant. And it will lead me on to a question for you, Di, as well. So he was born after the original series was aired. So he was in primary school when the Sky One version came out, and he would reenact in a safe manner. He had many of the events with his friends in his back garden, even getting the inflatable dual pugil sticks one Christmas as a present. Do you get, Di, a lot of people getting in touch with you now that weren't even alive for the original series?
I don't know if they get in touch, because I'm not very big on social media, as many people may know, but I do get sons and daughters occasionally messaging going, oh my god, my dad sat me down, we watched this amazing show called Gladiators. I wasn't born then, but how lovely to be introduced to this show all these years later. And that's thrilling, really, because, you know, coming up 30 years, and it was a time, a place and a happening, but there's something ageless about the show. And if it can bring a whole new generation of people in watching afresh, and it just goes to show, I think I've mentioned it before a couple of times, about the quality of the production, from lighting design to the way it was like multi-camera directed. And they just made us all look so good, really. But it was a massive team effort. And for that to translate onto today's television, I think is awesome. I think it's a weird gladiatorial thing to say, isn't it? I think it was awesome, but it's still fresh and awesome for new people coming in. I think that says everything, really.
Because he goes on to say, and this blows my mind as well. So as a 7-year-old, he thought there wasn't much more in Gladiators universe other than what was on Sky One, and like Tempest and Oblivion were like the big gladiators. And just imagine that this 7-year-old suddenly discovering Wolf. You know, Wolf came obviously later on in the revival series, but then he must have been like, hang on a minute, this bloke, what is his background? And he's obviously looked into it, and he stumbled across Challenge, and he discovered that they would air episodes every Saturday morning. So he'd get up at 7, ready to like reminisce with it. Well, not reminisce, ready to watch with fresh eyes for the first time these classic Gladiators episodes before heading to swimming training at 9 o'clock. And I think we've discovered that quite a lot since we've done the podcast. And actually, particularly with the time we've been in recently, where people have been more at home and they've been able to just sort of indulge with things that perhaps they haven't done previously, and with TVs and having smart TVs that you can watch YouTube on. Suddenly, there's this like whole new wave of people. And I know we've had a lot of messages from people that have said, I've just watched Gladiators for the first time. You know, I wasn't around when it's first shown, and now I'm getting to watch it. And I've watched this episode, and I've just listened to the podcast, and Hunter was talking about that. And you think, that is mad. Some 30 years on from that particular moment that Hunter's talking about, that somebody's only just watched it for the very first time. It just blows my mind.
I think it's a show that's just aged so well. Like, you could look at some of the events like Poleaxe and Pendulum now, and it just looks like as if it would so fit on TV nowadays. I think the only thing that may slightly age it is some of the hairstyles. Aside from that, I think, and perhaps some of Ulrika's outfits or John Fashionu's kind of waistcoats, but the actual action itself is something that probably they couldn't do on TV nowadays. So probably is just so enthralling to that generation that haven't seen it before, really.
No, I agree. And I guess to an extent, I know you probably you hinted at it a bit earlier as well, Di, but do you think that original Gladiators run, is it timeless?
I think so. I mean, I'm not biased, am I? But I think, as you said, other than hairstyles, I think you could easily transplant it onto today's viewing. It would just get such a great following again. I think quite cultish, really. And there's something kind of precious about it, because as you're saying, you wouldn't get the rights to actually film it from scratch today. because of health and safety. As sure as eggs is eggs, it's not something that we could ever do because of way too strict. The events would have to be so modified, they'd lose that edge. So I think if they were to rerun, not just on challenge, but rerun what we were doing, they'd probably have to look at the colouring, because obviously you can see when something was, because it was filmed on film, wasn't it, rather than digital. They'd probably have to tweak it a little bit to sharpen it up a bit. But as I've said, I think Brian Pierce's lighting design, I just love it, because they just made us look so fresh and so good, and it would translate really well today. And people are probably quite shocked with what they see, because they think, God, that's not allowed, is it? Is that person really hurt? For the record, yes. Everybody really hurt.
What I also liked about this letter was that this podcast has been taking him back to being aged 10 again, and his birthday, and his gran made him a cake in the shape of the iconic Gladiators G. Paul, did you have any Gladiator-inspired cakes?
Do you know what? I didn't. And I'm really jealous now. And I don't know why somebody in my family hasn't ever made me a Gladiators G cake before. Hunter did have one year that I saw on Instagram where somebody had created him out of fondant and stuff like that, holding a pugil stick, which was a pretty epic birthday cake. But no, I've never had one myself, which is really bad. Yeah, I don't know how that's happened.
Di, any Gladiator-inspired cakes for you, or anything that someone's made that's been edible?
I think a little bit like what you were mentioning there, Paul, with James having a fondant-shaped version of yourself. It was a big 40 for that birthday. I'd had a cake made for me, and there was sort of me as Jet, and a stack of books, because I was then retraining as a psychotherapist, and a couple of other things. But yeah, it was this sort of mini fondant Jet on this huge cake. I was very appreciative of it. Yes, it's a little work of art. I've got a picture of it somewhere. I didn't eat me, and I can't remember if anybody did, or whether I kept it and put it in a box somewhere, probably.
You'll have to dig that picture. And actually, any of you listening, have you had any birthday cakes or anything made for you that was edible, or was something that you couldn't buy that was Gladiators inspired? I think it'd be great if you could email those in. So gladpod@gladiatorstv.com, or you can share the pictures with us and Gladiators TV on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Tom ends his note to us about how much he would love to hear from Flame, because she was the only ginger gladiator that he can recall, which was maybe more the reason he took such a liking to her, as they had something in common. And actually, once again, that just shows you how the casting of gladiators, particularly in those early stages, was so important, because in the nicest possible way, they wanted to make sure that they represented everyone. And actually, having someone with ginger hair probably would have helped people like Tom warm to her.
So yeah, Flame was in series 1, and I'm sure I've heard a story of where she actually wasn't ginger, and that when she was taken on board, the producers dyed her hair to be obviously representing Flame and stuff. I'm sure I've heard one of the other gladiators mention that previously. Di, do you know anything about that?
No, sadly I don't, but it's a nice story. I just remember her being well above 6 foot, a nice athlete, actually, potentially a really good glad, had you been given more time to really embrace the events and find literally those very long legs and feet on the events and find what her strengths would have been. But yeah, I remember it's a very, very beautiful auburn red hair. I can't remember whether they did, because I know she is blonde, isn't she, to this day? Whether it was something the producers had asked her to do, I can't remember. It would make sense, though. It would make sense.
We should definitely get her on the GladPod to find this out, definitely.
There'll be one way of resolving that. First question. We will go against our usual train of questioning, Diane. Rather than asking about what it was like before they were gladiators and getting that glad call, we just go straight in with was your hair dye ginger? Guys, thank you so much again for all of the emails that you're sending in to us. It's great to just read so many of them. Please do continue to share your glad stories by emailing GladPod@gladiatorstv.com. Please do continue to leave us some 5-star ratings and reviews on iTunes or whichever platform you listen to the GladPod on. Let's get on with this week's show.
3, 2, 1.
Welcome to your GladPod, and what a GladPod this is going to be. Possibly actually, no, factually, the most popular, the most famous gladiator of all gladiators of all time, the big mean baddie himself, known to you and I as the Wolf Man. Wolf, welcome. You're looking well. You're over in New Zealand now, is that right?
That's right, yeah. I've lived here for the last 16 years, I think.
So let's go back to the very beginning. Should we go back to even before Gladiators, when you got that call? Tell us a little bit about what your life was pre-Glad.
Pre-Glad, so I was running my gymnasiums. I've opened 4 in England and sold them all when I came to live in New Zealand, and then opened another 2 over here. One of the guys in one of my gyms said to me, they're looking for gladiators on a new TV show. And I remember seeing it late at night sometimes if I was up late. I see the American version. And that's the only thing I knew about gladiators. And he said to me, I know how fit you are. He said, you should go for it. And I went, yeah, maybe I will. Then I forgot about it. And then I left it for a couple of weeks, and I bumped into this guy in the gym again. He said to me, did you apply for it? I said, no, I forgot all about it. I said, I'll do it now. I'll do it right now, otherwise I'll forget again, you know? And then I rang them up and said, can you send me an application form for a gladiator? And they said, you're too late. We've closed it now. We send you a contenders one. So I said, if you want to go up against the ones we choose. I said, okay, fine, just send us that. And I got the contenders form, and they asked me to send a picture in. And I'd just done a poster called Barbarian for a computer game. I thought, oh, that's a good picture. I'll send that in. As me and page 3 girl Marie Whitaker beside me, holding my legs, sitting there next to me, and I had a sword and my long hair, and I thought that'd be a good picture anyway. So I sent the poster in as my picture. Next thing, I get a phone call from Andrew Norgate saying, we saw your picture, we loved it, can you come in for an audition for a gladiator? And I said, I thought it was too late. They said, no, we want to see you. So I went up to the offices, and they said, you fit and everything? I just, like Cobra does, I just jumped straight into a splits. It did hurt, but I didn't say anything. I said, yeah. I said, whatever you want, somersaults, which I couldn't do, but I said I could. I said, anything you want, somersaults, splits, jumps, any fitness trial you want to put me through? I said, no problem, easy as pie. They said, okay, well, we'll be in touch. And then I got a phone call saying, you've been down, to the last 600 people, and we're going to send you to Woolwich Army Barracks, and we're going to put you through fitness trials. That's where I met Jet, the second most beautiful person there after me. And I'll tell you something which a lot of people don't know. When I got there, I phoned my wife now, but it was my girlfriend at the time, Paula, and I phoned her up and said, they're massive. I'm going to get killed. She said, well, do your best, darling. Anyway, so as I was going through the trials, quite easy actually, I noticed that after every trial, that the guys in the trial would be lying on the floor, totally exhausted, and the producers were looking at them with these little clipboards. I'm thinking, I can't lie down like that. They're going to think I'm tired. So after every event, I just went, that was easy. I hope the next one's harder, really loud. And then I went round the corner, and I was like, I'm dying. So out of sight of the cameras, out of sight of the producers, out of sight of everybody. And I walked back in and go, is the next event ready yet? They said, no, we're just getting ready. I said, I'll make it hard. This is too easy. And I walked around the corner going, I walked back in, and the other guy's thinking, God, this guy's so fit. He's not even phased. He's not even tired. So I had a psychological advantage to begin with, And to cut a long story short, I think there was one event I finished second in, the rope climb to Saracen won that. And I think I won all the rest. Also, right at the end, I don't know if you remember, Jet, right at the end, they had an army assault course. And they had these guys there standing there to give you a lift over a 10-foot wall. And I saw the producers with the clipboards again. I just looked at the guy and said, nah, don't need the lift. And we're just about to do this assault course, and they paired us up in 4s and 5 at a time. And I think it was John Anderson came up to me and said, just cruise this. We can't afford to get you hurt. Okay, just cruise it. I'm like, why is he telling me that? Because they haven't said I'm in yet. They haven't said nothing. So I just cruised it, and I still won it. Because at the time, it was just a coincidence. What happened is I was about 120 kilos in the off-season when I used to compete in bodybuilding. And then I went through a phase when I said, you know what? I don't like not having no abs. I don't like being like a big fatty off-season. I think I'm going to go through a fitness stage. I'm not going to compete anymore. I just want to be really super fit. And I dropped about 25, 30 kilos, and I got really, really fit. And just at that time is when Glads came along. So the timing just couldn't have been better. They wanted to try and, like the Spice Girls, they wanted somebody who was blonde, somebody who was redhead, I think Flame, she was originally blonde. They dyed her hair red because they wanted somebody who was Flame.
That's right.
So basically, and then they wanted a black guy, a white guy, a blonde guy. They were trying to put a group together, you know? And when we were about to do the show and I went up to him, I said, "The name is Wolf, Big Bad Wolf." I said, "Can I be bad?" To the producers. And they said, "No, everybody to be squeaky clean. This is your image." And all that. And I said, "Can I just do it for one show? If you don't like it, please, I'll never ask you again. I'll never bring it up. Just one show." They said, "Just one." And that's it. I did it to one show and the audience just went boom. And it went crazy. And they went, "That's it. You're bad." And I remember about a year or two down the line, I think it was Trojan. And he went up to him afterwards and said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm being bad." He said, "No, he's bad. You're good."
Let's check the Wolf's stats. He's certainly no sheep in Wolf's clothing. For Weininger's sake, let's hope it's not a full moon.
Congratulations, that was a close one. I got one message to the Wolfman. I'm not Red Riding Hood, and I'm not scared of the big bad wolf. Weininger, thanks very much. Whoa, that is a direct challenge. That is a challenge to the Wolfman.
Grandma, what big teeth you've got. I don't think he appreciated being reminded about that Little Red Riding Hood episode.
It's lucky I'm in a good mood.
A winning formula, though, wasn't it, Mike? It was an absolute winning formula because, like in all traditional good entertainment theatre film, there's always got to be a baddie. And I'll never forget, when we first entered into the arena, you were sat on the floor. Nothing had been rigged up. You were sat on the floor with your back propped up against a crash mat. Your legs were out long. You had a Tupperware tub of usually the rice and chicken. And then we sat and had a little conversation. You looked at me and you went, "Oh, Jet, I didn't want to be a baddie. I wanted to be like the lover man."
I wanted to be loved by the audience, but at the same time I thought, you know what? All you guys were young, all beautiful. There was me, the oldest one guy there, just turning 40. What have I got to do to stand out? These guys I'm working with are amazing. What can I do that makes me stand out? And being a baddie was what I thought was the only way to do it, because I had to do something, you know, because you guys were so fantastic.
Oh, that's a lovely, lovely compliment. Did you have to kind of, because you were already an actor, did you have to kind of process the whole angle of how you actually going to do bad? Was it the little pushing and shoving, or was it the one-liners? Did you actually have to get into character at all?
Yes, I'd have to get into character. But what I had to remember, what was the most important thing to me, was not overkill, because I couldn't go out and be bad every time, because some situations just didn't lend the opportunity to be bad. Sometimes you just had to go out and go with the flow. But if an opportunity presented itself, then I could go into character, then I could do it, then, you know, then it was right. And then, but if you just did it every week, then it would be boring. At the same time I've got to think of the audience. They want to go home. And if I just did, take Hang Tough, for instance, okay? If I just swung across and did a clinical kill, wrap my legs around a guy, pull him down, where's the entertainment? If I got my legs wrapped around him and he's not going anywhere, I stick my finger up his nose and rub it all over his face, or I start slapping him or pulling his hair or rubbing my armpits and going, "Oh, that smells bad, smell this." There are people in the audience will go home and say, "Did you see what he did? He did that, he did this. And, oh my God, he did that." You know, they've got something to talk about, and they'll go on, they'll remember that part of the show.
Shut up. You know something? It really, really hurts you to say something nice about me, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Go on, say it. Let me look at your lips. Say, "Wolf, you were fantastic."
Wolf, you were
Go on, say it. Go on.
ugly. Let's hear it for Wolf and Ali.
And he was in quite a good mood before that interview. This wolf baiting is bound to end in tears. Ali's friend Cameron pointing the yellow finger at Wolfie. I'm sorry, but they're asking for it. Yes, Wolf over the barrier. Oh, look at that. Well, it's the only big hand the Wolf will ever get. Well, that's what Wolfie thinks of it. The supporters aren't in bits, but the hand is. Now, down in the arena, here's David Matthews, a top man in the backstage team at Gladiators, and he presents a replacement glad hand to that young lady, making up for the one that Wolf ate. And he's even signed it. What a shock.
I was going to say, Mike, that actually producer Paul and I kind of gone through and tried to pick out some of our most memorable moments of those antics in particular. And actually, you know, you've got ripped, you tore, you stripped like contenders during this time. And especially on Hang Tough, that seems to be the one that's almost, it was prime for that. And I think the most memorable moment for Paul and I was pulling down the shorts on poor Roddy McKay. I'm not sure if you can remember that one, but...
Now, what happened in that instance was that I was sliding down him and I was just grabbing onto wherever I could grab onto. And I'm just so glad he was facing away from me when I pulled his shorts down. If it had been embarrassing, he was facing the other way.
And Roddy gets a massive swing. He's in the scoring zone in 2 swings, and Wolf is right behind him. Oh, I should say in front of him. Roddy 1 rings. Oh, look at that, Wolf straight in. Dives in, grabs him by the waist. That proves lycra stretches. Oh, cheeky. Oh, Wolf's down and so are his trousers. Have you ever seen anything quite so silly in your life? A man with his trousers round his ankles trying to swing from ring to ring to a gladiator's platform. Brian Ricks eats your heart out. Now can Roddy get to the platform? The crowd split, some willing him on, the rest willing them off. Oh! Stretching all of our imaginations. There's the whistle. That must be a first. A somersault with your trousers down. I think that constitutes flashing. All right, hands up. Who wants to see the replay? I think so. Let's savour this piece of TV history as the Wolf takes a piece of Red Riding Hood. But bet that's put a smile on Granny's face.
Well, John, that was a very, very close decision. I was on the point of disqualifying Wolf for ungentlemanly conduct.
By exposing him.
You need to learn how to behave.
Wolf, this is happening time and time again.
The referee's being unfair. He had pants on.
You mentioned Hang Tough. Now, we've crunched some numbers here at GladPod, and we've discovered, because of, you know, on the show for such a long time, 28 wins, 4 draws, 6 losses, and on Pyramid, 12 wins and 6 losses. Were they your 2 favourite events, do you think?
Not really. It's just going with the flow, really. A lot of people don't realise this, and Jet will tell you this. You'd walk out. Sometimes we had 3 shows in one day. In the beginning, it was 1 show every 2 or 3 days. Then the next series, it was 1 show every day. Then the next series, it was 2 shows a day because it was all about budget cuts and how expensive each show was. And they were trying to make as much money out of it as possibly could. And the outlay was enormous, about £1 million a show. So it was very, very expensive production. It was huge. Because it was such a big production and they were trying to cram it in, what would happen is that we'd go into a show, say show 1, okay? We'd go into our little penned area, which was at the back of the stage, and on the wall would be what events you're in. You walk up, you look and say, oh, I'm on 2 events today, or I'm on 3 events, or I'm on 1. You didn't know. But by the 3rd show, they'd walk in and say, who can do what? Because someone would say, I've hurt my arm, I can't swing. Or someone would say, I've hurt my leg, or I've hurt my knee, I've hurt this. At the end, you won 3 games, not because you were the best of those 3, it's because no one else could do it. I think I'm the only gladiator that's never missed a show, ever, including the internationals, including Australia. And the only reason for that is when I was injured, and I'd say to them, I'm injured, they say, we don't mind. You choose what you want to do. The audience want to see you. The banners out there are all for you. Please, you choose the event and you go out there. If you can't swing, you can't run, maybe you can do something else.
Was there a point at which you kind of downloaded the fact that you by that stage, you really were there as part of more of the kind of the colour of the entertainment rather than actually, because you obviously were an elite and a brilliant athlete. We've got to give you that. Never missing event. You were so driven and so committed. And I remember that. I mean, the pressure was on all of us to really perform. But was there a moment at which you suddenly downloaded, actually, I can't cruise here, and I don't want to because I know that's not your mental style, but you actually put the two and two together about, I'm kind of here for the entertainment value. Was there a moment that really hit you?
You was up there with me. You know, and everyone was jet. As far as the females was concerned, it was just jet all the way. You were number one by far. It was just, everyone was in love with you. You know, you were a lovely lady and, you know, everyone wanted to know about you. Every time I went to answer questions at a personal appearances, they'd ask me about Jet.
But conversely, I'd always get, is Wolf really like what he is? And, you know, the pressure on me, I still had to perform. I had to kind of, you couldn't just get away with flicking your hair and looking cute and smiling all the time because you still had to come up with the goods.
Remember Hang Tough when we were practicing? You couldn't do Hang Tough. I would stay with you and we'd practice again and again and again. And then you ended up being one of the best people on Hang Tough there was.
You know, you remember the hand guards? The rings were really thin metal and you'd have just cut your hands. You had to learn how to use the hand guard. Once you got grip right, you were off. But I was just saying, is that like kind of the moment when you realise that you could, not coast, but you could get away with being in that arena and even not having to win or do. In fact, the more you lost, the more it gave you that superb platform to be the big bad wolf.
I wanted to win every event. So if I lost, it wasn't because I was coasting. It was because I genuinely lost. You know, some days you feel good and you feel great. Other days you're injured, you're taking an injury with you, and you're not performing at your best. Personally, for my personal integrity, I wanted to win every time. But what I resented, I won't say who said it to me, but a couple of glads, more than one, said, it's okay for you at the end of every series, you know you're coming back for the next one. And I didn't like that because it's not because the character's so strong. It was because I wanted to win. But yes, the character was strong.
It's Saturday night. The Gladiators are back. It's been on for weeks, but he's only just realised it. Who's that ugly man, Mummy? Hope I don't look like that when I'm 60.
Well, unless you're a buster. Unless you're for the Wolfman.
Well, doesn't everyone just love to kick a wolf when he's down?
I don't even see it. I'm number one in the ring.
I'll tell you what I think of Buster's poster. Uh-oh, I think he's going to turn ugly, if that's possible. Oh, he's ripping it down. Buster's brother Gary in a very uncomfortable position. And Buster's mum and dad having a go. Here's Buster sorted out. And Buster's dad won't let go of the poster. Fax is turned up. There's all sorts going on down there. Willie will be getting stuck in soon, if we're lucky. Norgate mediating. Well, I hope Gary's shirt wasn't new. And Wolf being manhandled to the changing rooms. Buster with a wry smile.
Do you remember when we went to Australia? We had a meeting. We were all there and they turned around and said, right, guys, over this next series, we want you to do really best, your best you can do, because at the end of this, we're going to pick 4 from each group. You 4 are going to go to Australia. And one of the gladiators stood up and said, why don't you just say what it is? Why don't you just be totally honest with us and say, is there no way you're not going to take Wolf and Jet? So basically, you're telling us there's 3 places up for grabs. Be honest. Are you not going to take Wolf and Jet? No matter how bad they do, they will be in Australia. And the producers kind of shrugged their shoulders.
That did go on. I mean, it was hard. I wanted to kind of ask that, you know, you in your shoes. And I never took, like, probably like yourself, you know, your integrity's there. You don't take, even if your character's strong and you've become popular, you don't take it for granted, do you? Because we're human and not conceited. We weren't egocentric enough to think, oh yeah, well, we're definitely in, we're definitely going. But I felt a discomfort amongst the team a little bit around that, because if anyone was thinking what you've just said, it meant for there being a little bit of discourse or jealousy potentially with that. And you can only, it's only human, isn't it, that they would think, oh, well, you're all right, you know? And because everybody, like any job, you want to go back to it, you want to stay part of the job. No one wants to feel that they're being sidelined or marginalised, yeah?
I don't know if you remember, Jet, that time we had a meeting in your room. Some guy wanted to organise us. I'm not sure who he was, but he was saying to us that the power was with us. But then I remember in the meeting, which I didn't like, there were a couple of people turned and said, well, you go forward and tell them we're not happy because they won't sack you.
I was really uncomfortable with that. They put a load of pressure on you. What was that? Must have been really uncomfortable.
It was uncomfortable because we're a group, but you're saying, when it suits you, it's me who has to go and tell them you're not happy with something. And we never did anything about that because I didn't think it was right,
I agree. I think I got a bit of pressure as well. And it was about some sort of levity of payment or getting the payment up because there was a lot of risk in what we did. Isn't there something, Producer Paul, about the Americans actually had done this? They'd presented it back to the producers because their show had been going on that much longer. And of course, by then we realised this is quite a dangerous place to work. So people wanted a bit more money. Am I right in thinking that?
Yeah, the Americans did actually revolt against it. They wanted kind of more rights, more money for all of the merchandising and stuff that was going on. But it actually backfired for the team over there, and they pretty much got rid of the entire team, more or less, except for a few of the gladiators who didn't go through with the meetings. So yeah, subsequently they kind of axed most of the team. A few of them did come back later on, but yeah, some of the big key players did just leave from there. So
there was another incident. I don't know if you remember this. I don't even know. Was it live at Wembley? I can't remember. But there was an incident where Nigel pulled up Hawk because he didn't do very well on a game. Nigel laid into him, in front of us. Hawk told him where to go, basically. We all looked at each other as if to say, wrong move. To do it in front of all of us, Nigel could not back down, It was embarrassing for him. And next thing, Hawk was gone. Really nice guy. I liked him because he stood up for himself and told Nigel what he thought of Nigel. He was gone. Now, a little while after that, I think about a year later or something, Nigel pulled me up about something. I remember the Hawk incident, and I said to Nigel, I want a word with you outside, in private. That way, we're not doing it in front of everybody. And I basically told him what I thought. I said, if you want me to go, you can take your shows, stuff it, and up your ass, and I'll go somewhere, And then he said, Wolfie, I don't want you to go. Don't be silly. We have disagreements. This happens, but no, you're part of the show. You're an integral part of the show. And Nigel, being the true professional he was, he put the show first. But had I told him what I thought, because he was pulling me up, in front of all you lot, I'd have been out that door. Because Nigel, even though he was a professional and felt hell of a producer, he could not be embarrassed in front of the other gladiators like that, like Hawk embarrassed him. So you got to choose your battles. Nigel was man enough to put the show first and be a professional and just be Nigel. He was great, but I did it to him in private, and Nigel, being the man he is, he took it in private and he accepted the criticism from me, and I accepted the criticism from him, and we moved on. But you got to remember, there's certain things you do in the show and certain things you're not sure if they're going to keep in the show or they're going to leave in the show. I remember I did something on the show once. I thought, there's no way they're going to leave this in the show. And when I saw it aired on the television, I thought, they left it in. That was with Eureka. And I did an event, and Eureka went, that was a bit pathetic, wasn't it? And I grabbed the mic and I shouted to the audience, do you want to know why I lost? And they all went, yeah. I said, do you want to know why I lost? And they went, yeah. And I went, just before I came out to do this game, I saw Ulrika backstage without any makeup on. And I felt sick. And she stormed off the set. And everyone was laughing. And I thought, they're not going to leave that in the show. And they left it in.
What can I say? I mean, he made just easy meat of that. It was just no competition.
It's all your fault. No, do you want to know why it's her fault I lost? Do you want to know?
No.
I saw her backstage with no makeup on and I felt so sick I couldn't do it.
Ooh. Ozzy and Sylvia seeing the funny side of that. Hello, Uli throwing a strop and walking off the set. Oh well. Anyone got Danny Bear's phone number?
And Eureka, being a professional she laughed backstage about it, but.
You pushed her about quite a bit, didn't you, Mike? You pushed the boundaries of her quite a lot, because she never knew whether you're going to be naughty or nice.
I remember one time she said something bad to me and I just licked her face and but she was very professional, so she just took it all tongue in cheek.
And, well, it's happened again, hasn't it?
Quiet! I've got no excuses. He was very fast. I believe you're having a baby. And
Not at the moment.
And I just want to say congratulations.
Oh no, is this a changed wolf?
And looking back, you must now realise it all makes total sense to have had you just the way that you were. Would you have done anything differently?
I'd have won more. No, but not really, because nothing was rehearsed. I said, if I saw the opportunity, it just went with it, you know? But what I loved one time, I remember about to walk out, do a hang tough it was. I walked up the stairs and I wiggled my bottom from side to side like I always did for a laugh. And people were laughing. And then I stood at the stop of the podium thing and I looked to the audience to my right. And I put my arms up and they all stood up and they were screaming, you know. And then I walked across and I looked to the left and then they all stood up and they were screaming. Then I looked across to hang tough to the audience behind the contender and they all stood up and started screaming. And then I just rubbed my chin like that. I said, time to do the show. You know, it was just the satisfaction of seeing everybody standing on their feet and I hadn't done anything yet. And it was screaming, shouting. I hadn't even grabbed the ring yet. 100% pressure. But it was getting that reaction and interaction with the audience that I was working on. And when that happened, I knew it was working because you hadn't done anything and they're all screaming.
Yeah, he certainly is a bad wolf and a bad sport as usual, just living up to your reputation.
Oh, come on, give credit where it's due. Oh, it's fantastic.
You were okay.
What do you mean, okay?
Okay.
I was good.
You're wonderful. Let's hear it for Wolf. And let's hear it for Andy. One more event to go.
The hound from hell not given to modesty, even when he loses, so when he wins, he's impossible. Oh, a sneaky shove from Phil Norman, getting one back on Wolf for pushing Andy. Hello. Oh, it's just dawned on him what's happened. This should be interesting because Phil's a karate champion. Wolf must be out of his mind taking on Phil, but then we've always thought he was. Not normally the kind of behaviour we expect from a pensioner. John Anderson's in there to sort it out.
Keep back, behave yourself, play the game properly, try and be a sportsman. On your way.
Wolf sent packing, rebuked by the ref. It's a wonder he didn't give Wolf a blast with his hooter.
Well, Mike, I was going to ask about that because sometimes you'd see the contenders' families, they would get like really riled up and angry. Were there any moments you can remember thinking, maybe I pushed this a bit too far?
Never. What I would do is I would walk over to their members of their family, all smiley like I was going to shake their hand, and then I ripped their banners down. And they're taking ages to prepare those banners. I just ripped them apart.
But and also with the kids' foam hands, I can remember you'd rip them up. But I have since heard that you would then give them a signed replacement. But did it ever go wrong where you ripped something up for someone and then they were like, oh no?
Yeah. I went over to a little girl, all smiles, and I smiled, and I walked over to her and she was waving her little hand at me, and I ripped her hand off and I started pulling the fingers off in front of her one at a time. And she was, whoa! People with her were going, we're going to kill you. Yeah, and all trying to reach across to get at me. And I was thinking, quick, bring me the replacement hand with all the signatures on. And, and then they were a bit slow bringing it on. The kid was going, ah! And then I gave them the hand and they all went, oh, this is amazing. Thank you. And I thought, oh, get that on camera after the crime.
And what about pyramid as well? Because you would often push the contenders off the top after the game. But did you ever worry about injuring them doing that?
No, because I'd always whisper in their ear before I did it. I said, we're about to push you. They went, what? Ah!
Oh, the magic of TV, just like, I was going to say ruined there, but it did still sound like a bit of a surprise for them.
They knew it as they were thinking about it in mid-air, thinking, what did he say?
Well, Mark, despite the fact you had that nasty Wolfman on your trail, you picked up 10 points.
Yeah. That's all I wanted to do, is just make it to the top of the pyramid in one of my games, and I've done that.
Did he play dirty?
He's quite strong, but he's a bit dirty. He shouldn't have pushed me down, though.
He's always out of order.
Wolfman, you don't look to be too happy. Hey, quiet! Now listen to me. The referee said stop. I looked around at him, and he pushed me off when the referee said stop. I waited. Now the referee is out of order. I want a video replay. I want an official complaint. Johnny, can we have your version of it, please?
Yes. This game is about sportsmanship, understanding the rules, which is difficult for some people. Hey. The game is about tackling and taking people off, not about pushing. And because of his conduct, This is a yellow card.
No way!
This.
No, listen. Right, you tell me something. You said the contestant cannot tackle me.
One more.
He tackled me.
One more. Hey. There's no need for that at all.
The wolf's not prepared to eat his words, so eats the yellow card. Unless you eat your crust, you'll grow up to be like that nasty man. Well, the ref's given up on him. Not a good example from someone who's going to be drawing their old age pension in a couple of years.
One event that comes up quite a lot, and for various reasons, is the wall. Now, again, we've done the facts and the figures on this, Mike, and you actually lost 21 times on the wall and only won 4. You said that there was no event that you liked particularly more than any others. You liked them all. Was this the event that you hated the most because you always lost?
It's not that. It's just that 10 seconds is a big head start. And you're not talking about ordinary guys. You're talking about they've had fitness trials across the country. Every fitness trial, they'd have a stadium somewhere in Manchester, Liverpool, whatever, and they'd have about 5,000 people turn up. So the people you're up against are the best of the best. To give somebody like that 10 seconds head start, it's a hell of a lot. And you've got 2 overhangs. If you did a real jump, you might be able to miss the first couple of runs and save a few seconds. But if you cocked it up, you'd end up back at the start again. 10 seconds is a lot. And then it got reduced to 7 seconds and then 5 seconds in the final. But it's still it's a big start for these people who got that far because they're that good. And Hunter, he was 6'4" and I'm just under 6. His reach was far better than mine. He's halfway up the wall by the time you've sneezed. Or you look at him thinking, God, he's just so good at this. He's just so tall and 6'4" and just long reach, It went against me and Cobra because of our height. We were just 6 footers compared to all the others, all 6'4", 6'2", 6'3",
Trouble. It's Cobra and Wolf. And look at that. What an incredible distance between Wolf and Brian. And Wolfman not impressing his fan club on this occasion. He's already over for 10 points. And look at the distance within Cobra. And another 10 points. Both guys relieved to get off the mark and onto the scoreboard.
Brian made that look very easy. 10 points. Well done.
Good event for me, John. Bad one for the Wolfman.
Not just on the heights thing, but about the camaraderie amongst the boys. Was there anything that we don't know out here, even as girls? Was there something between all of you? Were you helpful towards each other, or was there any kind of torsion or tension between any of you at any point, or was it quite good?
No, because we all stuck to our gladiator names, as you said from the beginning, but that was because there was 4 Michaels. So when they said Mike or Michael, everyone went, huh? And we'd all look round every single time. They say Michael. So we said, this is ridiculous. Let's just stick to our gladiator name.
Did you actually have a favourite event, though, that your pulse would race for when you thought, I'm on that, I love that, I've got that?
I liked the pyramid because I could have a lot of fun on that. I'd throw somebody down and then I'd lie down with my arms behind my head. And with the other gladiator is running back and forth, trying to stop the guy like this, all crazy like. And I'm there, fully horizontal, lying with my hands, rested on my head, waiting for the guy to run up. And everyone's thinking, he's going to get past him. He's going to get past him. And I'd leave it to the last split second. And then I'd jump up and grab the guy and throw him down again. Or I'd be sitting there doing my nails or doing something, completely derogatory towards the contender, as if to say, you're nothing. This is easy, And I was just hoping I wouldn't lose while I'm doing all that. Because one time I was making fun of a contender just thrown down. And I see it there waving at him like this. And he was flat on his face. And the next minute, I think it was Hunter, threw somebody down. But he threw him on me. I went flying through the air with this contender, landed flat on my face. My guy who I was waving at looked at me and went, and ran up the pyramid, and I lost. And I'm still flat on my face thinking, because I didn't expect to be hit from behind.
Wolf throwing Phil down. Oh, the cheek of the man. Dina Cobra knocked the Knoxland Wolf off the pyramid. And the only way for Phil is up. Couldn't stop till he get to the top. Fireworks. And it's 10 points for Phil. And Wolf offers his own congratulations. Bit of a bumpy ride, but I suppose he had to come down anyway.
Sticking to pyramid though, Mike, I'll never forget once, because you are, I think anyone listening now who hasn't heard you, the persona behind the wolf, you are a joker and you're always up for fun. But we were rehearsing one day and you did something and I really felt for you because I've had disc issues in my back as well. You jumped down the pyramid, not on your legs, we weren't practicing, you were just having a bit of fun, and it was funny, but you got to the bottom. Tell everybody what happened.
I thought, wouldn't it be exciting if I jumped from the top of the pyramid to one step from the bottom in one leap, be ready to take the guy on, and I did it. But the way I landed, it just squashed my disc, and I still got a problem now. And I was in so much pain, I couldn't even stand up. I had an MRI scan, and instead of disc being straight, one of them was bulging. Paying the price today for it still.
That's why our boss Nigel at the time, he said, I don't want any of you playing on the events for fun, even trying the eliminator, because he'd clocked on by then serious injury time, and if any one of us like yourself was injured, you'd be out for the season. But it's like an eternal, for you, it must be like an eternal gladiator injury that reminds you every day.
Even now, I don't squat anymore because of it. I used to squat really heavy. No more squats or standing calf machine because it compresses down on the spine.
Mike, you mentioned the eliminator there, and you're probably the only gladiator, albeit in a sort of a joking setting, but you're only gladiator to have actually done the eliminator. Because the only event you didn't do was tilt. Was the eliminator everything you thought it would be?
Well, what happened on that eliminator when we did it for fun with Brian Connolly, I had to keep running on the spot. And it was bloody hard because it's easy to run straight up it, but to stay in the middle of it and pretend you're running, or you are running, and Brian Connolly press a button and go straight to the top. It was hard to actually stay there in the middle of the thing and keep running on the spot. It was a true testament of fitness, that was, I tell you.
And obviously it ended in quite a funny way as well. Can you remember the ending?
The trophy up my butt, yeah, that was funny. But I love that sketch. It was really, really funny,
To make this more dangerous, here in this dangerousness area, I shall be chased around the gladiator course by one of the biggest names in gladiators, the awesomest, the beefiest, the nastiest, Ulrika Johnson.
Yes, but the bad news is that Ulrika Johnson can't be with us tonight.
Oh, that's a shame. Right, we'll have to cancel. Right, everyone, you all go home now. Go home, everybody.
Yes. But the good news is this one could.
This is Ulrika. All right there, love. All right. How's the baby? I didn't know you had dandruff.
Don't you recognise this gladiator?
Of course I do, John. What do you think, I'm stupid? This here? It's Ulrika. The name is Wolf Pillock. That's a stupid name, isn't it? Wolf Pillock. Wolf, yeah. You ready for it? All right, yeah, don't mess with me. I got a black belt in karaoke.
The relationship between you and John Anderson, it would love-hate on screen. What was it like behind the scenes?
John was one of the most loveliest guys going. He was my friend off the screen. We'd often go out and have dinner together and all that. He's just great. But we worked like a dual comedy act together, like Morecambe and Wise or something. I couldn't have done half the things I did without his participation. He would allow me a bit of leeway, and then he'd do something to bring me down a peg, then I'd have to answer back to him. And it was just back and forth between us, and it was like he was my nemesis. He really interacted well with me.
One thing I wanted just to cover is, you mentioned about the International Gladiators earlier. So in 94, I think it was, you teamed up with Nitro from the American Gladiators, who was their bad boy, and you were dubbed as the Gruesome Twosome. And then you had that rivalry with Falcon during the Ashes series, or especially during the Ashes series. And then you teamed up with Jackal from South Africa in the Springbok Challenge. So aside from Wolf being the ultimate baddie of gladiators, who do you think was the next best bad boy out of those?
They both did a good job, but I think having his dreadlocks and dark skin and being so big, he was about 6'4", wasn't he? It made it a bit more intimidating as a baddie, because of the dreadlocks and everything, I think he looked good.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was the benefit of doing all this. You were mingling with like-minded people from across the globe as well.
I don't know if a lot of people know this, but Jet will tell you this. All the gladiators in the Australian team were scripted. We had carte blanche in our show to do what we wanted, say what we wanted, do what we wanted. I think I'd be compromised if I had to stick to a set script and you had to introduce it into the events. It in the back of my mind, it wouldn't work, and I feel uncomfortable. You know, I like the fact that our producers just let us do whatever we want to do. And if they didn't like it, they just edit it out.
A little piece of advice for you challengers. When you come out there and you meet me, pretend you're hurt. Get out the arena fast. Because as long as you're there, the more pain you're going to get from me.
The Ashes.
Yeah, well, actually, it's interesting because Vogue mentioned in our chat with her that she actually wanted to be a baddie herself because Vogue didn't really lend itself to necessarily being good or bad. But she was told that it wasn't really appropriate to have kind of a bad girl in the 1990s. What do you think? Do you think there was room for a bad girl?
I think there's always room for a bad girl, but I think the producers kind of controlled it. They controlled everything they wanted to. Like, I was the baddie and they didn't want others to be baddie. You know, it's very controlled. You know, I was just fortunate that the name lended itself, Big Bad Wolf. If it wasn't for the name, and say I was called something else like Potato Head or something, I don't think I could have come out as a baddie going, here comes Potato Head. When we did the original trials, they already had the names picked and approved by the Americans before we went for that trial. And after when they said, I don't know if you remember, Jet, they said, we're going to let you know in 2 weeks' time who we've chosen. I got a phone call the next morning and I got told, you're going to be Wolf and you've been chosen as a gladiator. And I just said, excuse me a minute. And I walked out to the garden and I went, I walked back in and I went, oh, great, look forward to it.
Was it the biggest break you'd say you'd ever had?
Absolutely, ever. When you were doing minor roles in acting and when you were doing commercials, yes, I was recognised by the commercials sometimes by people in the street would say, oh, wasn't you in that commercial, you know? But they said to us at a meeting at London Weekend Television, they said, once this goes to air, you will not be able to walk out into the street without everybody recognising you. I thought, I'd like to see that. I bet that's not going to happen. And then the minute it went to air, after the first show, I was walking somewhere and a taxi driver shouted out, Wolfman! At the top of the taxi, at the top of his voice, I thought, oh, he knows who I am. And even now, I tell you another funny story. I went through, you know, if you've ever been through customs, right? When you go through the airport, when I go back to England, like for the Comic-Cons, they're a little bit surly. Not surly, but they're very matter of fact. You know, they open your passport, they look at you and they go, and they just look you up and down. Why are you here, sort of thing, and they let you pass. I've come up to passport, coming back into England, and from New Zealand, and the passport guy opens my passport, he looks at me and he goes, he gets his phone out, he goes, quick, can I have a selfie? And I'm like, hang on, this is a passport guy. And I'm walking through the airport and everyone's going, all right. I'm thinking, I've lost all my hair, they're still recognising me. And people are going, where were we on this? Well, I'm going to get my hire car, and people are going, hey, how you doing? All right? We'll sort you out a good car. Wolf, we'll get you, don't worry, we'll upgrade you. And, you know, I'm like, wow, this is fantastic. This is 20 years on, and that's the reaction I'm getting the minute I've stepped off the plane.
So you was, you know, again, you're an international, well-known gladiator, probably the most famous gladiator of all of us. But, you know, the show did kind of grind to a halt in the end. It went to G Sky B, Sky Gladiators, The Legends. So during the whole of that period, were you aware that this show was having to transform and grow with the times? And did your attitude change as an athlete and as Wolf within the show while it was changing? Or do you think, no, I'm going to keep producing all I've been able to produce my best?
I made a big mistake personally. What I said to my wife Paula was that, you know what, I don't want to do acting anymore. I don't want to do anything with that. All I want to do now is just enjoy myself, go in the gym. I had all my gyms, work out, Wolf on the back shelf. Unless I'm asked to do a guest appearance on something, I don't want to do anything. And I didn't push the acting whatsoever while I was hot. I should have done, but I didn't. Kind of a regret. And then I was speaking with John Sachs, and I said to him, I'm putting on the back burner sort of thing. And he said, well, I know this guy called Dennis Selinger, and he has offices in Hollywood, and he's the top agent. He could get you into big movies, things like that. You can't get a meeting with a guy. I'm friends with him. I can arrange for you to have a meeting with him. Are you interested? So I spoke to Paul about it, and she went, go for it. I went, all right then. So I met with Dennis Selinger. He's a really old boy. We went to lunch. He didn't say a lot. He just kept looking at me and didn't hardly say anything. He let me do all the talking. And he told me about, he's got Roger Moore and he's got Oliver Reed and he's got all these big stars. And, you know, and I thought, wow, you know, this is like next level. And then he said, let's go back to my office and talk. We went back to his office and he's got a load of scripts on his desk. And he said, these are all movies. I'm going to find something for you. I'm going to take you on. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I just can't believe this. This is like out of this world, you know. I've made it with one of the top agents in the whole of the industry, you know. It's got top stars. I've made it. And then a week later, I got a phone call saying, you got an invite to Dennis Selinger's funeral. He's just died. And I went to the funeral and Roger Moore was reading the last rites. And there was a who's who of stars there. And I felt out of place because, all right, I'm a gladiator, but I'm not in their league. It's like big stars, you know, and I'm sort of like class B and they're class A. About a week after the funeral, I got a phone call from whoever had taken over and said, look, I know Dennis took you on. He saw something in you, but we're having a revamp of the agency and we don't think you're big enough for us. We're not going to take you on. So I went from, yes, I've made it, to the top agency, to the top agent, to no. So, and then after that, I said, okay, that's it. I'm not going back to acting anymore. And I left it there.
Just going back to Bad Boys again. So we had the introduction of Vulcan back in 98. Now, because he was an established bad boy in the Australian Gladiators team. Were you worried that they were trying to bring in another bad boy to try and usurp you, or do you think they're worried that you might retire?
No, he's a nice guy, but no, it couldn't be. There's only one Wolf. No disrespect to him, but no, he pales in my shadow.
In the last series, we interviewed who was going to become Shark Metin, and this was in 97, and he was being sold as the new bad boy. And it was just, and then he didn't make it, and then Khan was supposed to be bad, but that didn't work out. I didn't know whether you ever felt that the producers might want to try and bring in a new bad boy, or whether you just felt confident that you were the bad boy of Gladiators.
Basically, I just thought I'd just keep my head down, just keep doing what I'm doing. And if they want to bring another baddie in, or they want to get rid of me and replace me, it's up to them. But, you know, I just did my job as a true professional. And from the get-go, and I just went on and just did what I had to do, you know. I treated it as a professional from day one. I am a professional athlete. When I'd go out to have breakfast in the morning, sometimes I'd see girls leaving in evening dresses on the night before, say from some of the other Gladiators' rooms. And then we'd have breakfast, and they'd say, oh, I'm so tired, you know. And I'm thinking, yeah, I know why you've been up all night. I would watch a movie, have room service, and get an early night, and I'd be fresh for the morning. So sometimes it's important to treat it as a professional. No disrespect to you guys. I love you guys, but you got to be professional all the time, not up all night playing, you know, cards with somebody.
And Wolf, with his wheels partner Cobra, pushes him. Good team spirit there. Cobra says, where's my agent?
It's meant to be a team now.
But you know our Wolfie, he never did play by the Queensbury rules.
Bad sportsman. Very bad sportsman.
Oh, mind you, steady as that camera's been all night. The great thing about Wolf, grannies, small children, cheerleaders, everyone gets the same treatment.
What took you to New Zealand in the end? Why that beautiful country?
I had a friend of mine who used to work out at my gym and went to live in New Zealand, and he kept sending me emails going, come and visit, this is amazing, you come and visit, it's fantastic. And Paula had a friend all the way through kindergarten, all the way through senior school, who married a Kiwi and was living in New Zealand and kept saying to her, come out and visit. So what me and Paula would do is every year we'd pick a different country just so we'd see the world. We had a holiday home in Ibiza because my first wife was from Ibiza and my son lived there with her. So we had a holiday home there so we could always visit him. Anyway, so every year we'd pick somewhere different just to see the world, just go on holiday. And I said to her, well, you've got a friend in New Zealand. I've got a friend in New Zealand. Why don't we go visit them? Because it's so far away, let's go for 3 or 4 weeks, you know, and see the place properly. And when I came over, it was breathtakingly beautiful. I sound like an advert for the tourist board, but it was so beautiful. The people were so friendly. And there's only 4 million when I came over. It's 5 million now. It was just absolutely, I was blown away. Even though I lived in Sevenoaks in Kent in England, and that's a beautiful place to live in England, I was just blown away about how close the beaches were in Auckland to everything. You know, you can get on the car, go 20 minutes in any direction, you hit a beach. And I've got a home out here, and, it's absolutely, I can't see my neighbours, so I love the privacy. And I've got like water as you cross a bridge to get to my home. You can't see my home from the road. And, it's just, I just love it. And then I get in my car and they call them batches here. If you've got a home near the water, most people strive to have a home and a batch. And I've got a house as well, which is 2 minutes from the water. The kind of things you get here, I could not have got in England, because when I came here, my money was worth double because of the currency. And I've met so many people who've come over since then, because of the life and the fact that the lifestyle and the fact that your money's worth so much more.
So, for the final time, the Wolf swings out. He's had his ups and downs on the rings. Sometimes he stayed up, and other times, yes, he's gone down. He'll be looking to go out on a high tonight. Great work from the Wolf. Impressive resistance by Mark. Is that really the last of the Wolfman? I don't think so. He's finishing in exactly the same way as he started 8 years ago. In trouble with the ref. A familiar scene, this, Glad fans.
Over here.
Oh, Wolf's thrown his hat, and the ref's having a pop at Wolf. Oh, what's occurring here? Fash looks like he's getting ready to rock. John Anderson steaming in too, and Wolf is getting mullered. Extraordinary scenes. John Anderson of Fash taking out 8 years of frustration of Wolfman. Timekeeper Andrew Norgate sorting out the fracas. Coming to the end of an era for the Wolf, the crowd rising to him, and the old fellow's signature tune and lap of honour. Well, the Wolf's lost none of his appeal over the years, just a chunk of his hair.
The final series, how did you feel about it ending?
Well, I don't know if you remember my walk down the corridor at the end when I said, I'm going to be so sad, I'm going to miss all you fans. And it was sad because Gladiators has become an institution like Blind Date. People would watch Blind Date, they'd watch Gladiators, then they'd go out. It just became part of the British culture. We were so well established as a show. They took us off to put on more Ice Warriors. Give me a break. There was nothing exciting about it. And they stopped us when we were pulling in 9 million. At our peak, we were pulling in 13 million. 9 million is more than all the shows are doing today. They'd be happy to do 9 million.
Yeah, and I mean, how did you feel about going up against your fellow gladiators in the Battle of the Giants?
Well, I just wish I'd done it when I was 40. I went against them when I was 48. Had I gone against them when I was 40, might have been a different result. But remember, think like Hunter was 19. Lightning was about 21. These were young people, and there was me, 20 years older than them, and I felt like saying to some of them, like, wait till you get to my age.
That's why I love and admire you to this day. Absolutely, could not have done it at that age.
All right, Wolf, I have to ask you if you're going to play fairly. You're with your mates now, you're not fighting any contenders.
All the gladiators are very, very good. I'm here to prove a point that at 47 I can mix it with the best, and these are the best.
The show came off, and then we had the revival on Sky, and obviously you came back for that. And when you returned to the arena for the Legends Returned, you had a massive standing ovation when you entered the arena. I mean, what was it like to be back? And what did you make of it all?
Well, to be honest with you, I wanted to come back as a Glad, but what happened was that I was in Australia and on holiday with the kids and my wife, eating a pizza actually, and I got this phone call saying, we want to talk to you about Glads. We need you to come back into the new series we're doing and all that. And I thought they meant as a Glad. So I put the pizza down, I went out and I went for a run on the beach. I was rolling up and down this beach thinking, oh, I've got to get fit again. I've got to get really fit, thinking that's what they were talking about. Oh, I came back and I was exhausted. And I looked at my pizza and it looked so good, but I didn't finish it. For the rest of the holiday, I was just, no more bad junk, no more junk. Because I eat junk food on holidays. I thought, no more junk. I'm going to go out and I'm going to train every day. And I'm going to, and then they started having the conversations with me about the new show and all that. They said, we want you to come back as the team captain. I was like, oh, I want to be a gladiator, And they said, no, we want you to be the team captain. And I thought, oh. And then they said, we're going to give you X amount of money. I went, I'll do it.
So, now some people are saying that Oblivion is the new Wolf. Can there be another Wolf?
Oblivion? I've seen more meat on an oxo cube.
And what about Johnny? We know, your famous run-ins with Johnny Anderson. Is everything okay?
Oh, man, I saw him coming in a Zimmer frame earlier. I hope it's all right.
Because you also returned for the 2 other Legend specials as well. You was only original Gladiator to appear on all 3 specials. But there was one moment at the end of the second Legend special, the Legend Strike Back. It seemed incredibly cheesy, and it was staged, and it was where, you know, you retired from competition and you switched allegiances from the original team to join the new Glads, as the original male had lost the Eliminator to the new Glads, and this resulted in you having like a stage argument with Trojan on camera and pushing him down to the pool. It wasn't quite all what Gladiators was about, what the original Gladiator was about, was it? It was all a bit too fake and too sort of WWE.
They controlled the whole of that. They told me what to do and how we want you to do it because, you know, and Trojan was going for a laugh, and so we did it, but it wasn't how I would have done it.
And you briefly came out of retirement to compete in the Legends Last Stands against Trojan Earthquake. Yeah, was it? So it was all pretty much staged fights then, wasn't it?
Yeah, but also Hunter made a valid point. He said, if you compare all our ages together to the new Gladiators, we had a collective age of 200, and Wolf was about 150 of that. Yeah, Hunter made a good point. You know, that collectively all our ages were so much more than the new Glads, who were all young and fit, how they were when they first joined.
New Gladiators, ready! All Gladiators, ready! What are you talking about, old Gladiators?
Sorry.
Ancient Gladiators! We're not old, very old. We're legends!
I wanted to also briefly touch as well on merchandise, because it's something that comes up quite a lot on the forums, and we always get pictures of merchandise stuff, and Paul's got like a whole, producer Paul's got a whole like room full of the merchandise. You were very heavily used in the advertising campaigns at the beginning. Now I read somewhere, and is this true, that you were the only Gladiator to have your head 3D scanned for the second wave of the figures?
No, I think a couple of people. I complained about my figurine because I thought it didn't look like me, and then they decided to do the 3D one after that, and then it did look like me. That was I did mention it to them, and they were kind enough to change it for me. With the merchandising, you got to remember that they gave us a very small percentage of that. Even our salaries on the Gladiators was very, very small. People thought we were making a fortune. It was $500 a show. It was not a lot of money. Where we made the money, our diet was on personal appearances, doing stuff off of Gladiators was where we made the money, pantomimes, because the actual show paid peanuts. The show gave you the exposure and the money. But even then, the money you earn off the show, they were taking 20% of that. They didn't off the pantomime, which thank God, and they didn't off, like I did a lot of commercials off of the Gladiators, which I didn't, it was me, but I wasn't in my costume. So they couldn't say anything. If I was in costume, then I'd have had to pay them. I
mean, this is probably a question for both of you, actually. Was there any sort of controversy or rivalry in the Gladiators team about the fact that you two were the ones that appeared on most merchandise more than any of the others?
It didn't make any difference because we didn't get paid any more than the others for it. You know, so it didn't matter if I sold 1,000 T-shirts. We were just paid to do the T-shirt, not how many they sold.
There was obviously the cardboard cutouts of you two, which I think from I remember producer Ball saying to me once that he wasn't actually able to own them because it was £24 in 1992 for a piece of cardboard. But you also had the pasta shapes, the air fresheners. There was quite a bit of random.
I remember when I did pantomime that I was selling T-shirts with my picture on it, and it just said "Wild Thing" with my face. Bill Hettersley, who was running all the stuff, pulled me up and said, "You can't sell T-shirts." And I said, "Does it say Gladiators?" He said, "No." I said, "Do you own my face?" He said, "No." I said, "Then I can sell T-shirts." And I would sell, after every show, I'd go out and sign and sell T-shirts. And I sold hundreds of them at every single panto. And I made a lot of money from T-shirts, but saying "Wild Thing." Because, you know, you got to think about it. They don't own your face. They own Gladiators. They own the name Wolf, but they don't own your face.
I was listening to another podcast, Quickly Kevin, and they made reference to the fact that you'd featured for Gillingham FC's reserve side against Cambridge United, and you'd played 70 odd minutes for it. And their attendance had gone up like tenfold because you turned up to play a game for them. Was that all true?
Yes, because when I was a schoolboy, I was very, very poor. And I say poor, meaning the word poor. I mean, I couldn't afford a school dinner. I had to get through the welfare. I couldn't afford a school uniform. how to get through the welfare. And they had this system where, which is pretty embarrassing, where all the kids who couldn't afford a school dinner, when you go up to pay, they had a box there and you throw your little chit. You get 5 chits a week for 5 meals and you throw your chit in there and other kids would make fun and say, you can't afford a school dinner. So you'd smack them in the mouth and you'd end up getting in trouble. And that's how I used to fight all the time because of the fact that we were so poor. People would make fun of you, you know? I remember football boots that other kids would turn up at school saying, look at my fantastic new boots. And I'd get mine from a jumbo cell and I'd have to put newspapers in because they didn't fit and gaffer tape and play football in there. And even then, but anyway, I made it to Crystal Palace as a schoolboy footballer. I wasn't really into football, but I did it for the money because they'd pay us as a schoolboy to turn up at each game. And because I never had any money, I thought it was great. And I'd turn up just to get the money for the game, you know. And when Gillingham found out that I was at Crystal Palace, I don't know how they found out as a schoolboy, they approached me and said, would you like to come down and trial for us as a footballer? And I wasn't that good. And I went down there, played with them, and I played that one game for them in the reserves. A lot of the reserve team were players from the first team who were coming back from injuries. So they were pretty good. It was a good standard. I pulled a hammy or something. I pulled a muscle after about 70 minutes. But the attendance they got was like they'd have more than they'd have at a game, you know. So I think when they asked me, did I want to play for them, it was more about attendance than really me being a good footballer. Because they knew if I played for them regularly, they'd make more money at the gate, which I was quite chuffed at, really, you know.
But there was one line in there that I did wonder. Apparently you broke the leg of an opposition player.
That's a myth. That never happened. All the players were all good to each other. There was nothing there.
And the other thing I wanted to ask, because I just can't imagine you doing it, and it's come up on the podcast a couple of times. I think Hunter mentioned it during his chat, because he was reading off all the different things that you did from, you know, football player that we just mentioned, kickboxer, MMA fighter, rollerblader, the whole thing. And he said, and did you know that Wolf can also play table tennis?
Yeah, I was a champion when I was a junior, yeah. I made the England B squad. I didn't make the 18.
And I noticed, I think producer Paul dug out this little nugget as well, that you won Family Entertainer of the Decade Award in 1999. I mean, that must have been pretty encompassing of everything that you achieved on Gladiators to have it recognised that you were probably the biggest family entertainer of that decade.
Oh, it was absolutely amazing. All the stars were there, and I was sitting at a table with 4 people who were far bigger than I was. I was like, wow, you know, it was all top actors and musicians. And when I won the award, and they were all clapping, saying, well done, Wolf. I was like, wow, these people like know who I am. They were far bigger stars than I was, you know, and it was really nice. And I went up there and I just said how chuffed I was, you know. But I remember, I'll tell you another funny story, because some of these things I found funny. I went to a celebrity thing at London Weekend Television with the other gladiators. Afterwards, they had like a drinks and food for everybody. And my wife was saying to me, oh, there's so-and-so. Go get the autograph for my mum. She loves him. I said, I can't do that. It's embarrassing. She went, go ask him. I was going, no. And then before I could do that, they'd come over to me and say, my kids love you. Can I have your autograph? I say, her mum loves you. Can I have your autograph? And then you find out they're just the same as you are. They feel embarrassed to come and ask you, and you feel embarrassed to go and ask them. They got kids that love you, and you got family members that love them. So once you get talking to them, they're just the same as you are. Everyone's just the same. Take away the fame, they're just regular guys. And I thought that was really nice.
Probably last 2 questions from us then. So I think the first thing we wanted to know is, if we had a time machine and we could go all the way back to the early 1990s and you could do it all again, would you? And would you do anything differently?
I don't think I would have taken part in one of the Wembley shows. I did it because I just lost my mum. I didn't want to take part. My heart wasn't in it. And my mind was somewhere else when I did it. Yeah, I was hurting. I was hurting big time because my mum was the closest thing to me in the whole world. I did it because I was a professional athlete and I didn't want to let the people down. But if I could have time again, I wouldn't have done it. That was terrible for me. The worst time of my whole life, losing my mum. Nothing hurts more in life than that.
It is incredible, Mike. And I know. I remember seeing you quite a bit during that period of time in your life. The ultimate professional, you know, that bedrock of the real life happening and its impact on you. But as soon as somebody would walk up to you, Wolfman, please, you just would switch on that persona, be fully present for that person despite that pain underneath. And for me, that is a true pro. Would you come and speak to us again?
Absolutely, not a problem. It's been a pleasure, and honestly, you're a true professional. I learned a lot from you, and all you guys were so good. I had to get my level up to the next level just to get noticed, because everyone was so good. Seriously, it was harder for me coming into that show at 40 years old with all you young professionals to raise my level up. Otherwise, I wouldn't have got noticed.
You made the show. You were one of the absolute features, the fixture and feature of the show. You made it.
Here we go. This is the end. 8 years I've been coming to this arena. 8 years I've been trying my best. And now it's all over. Well, I've enjoyed it. It's been a great time. And I'd like to say goodbye to all my fans.
One final question from me then. Should Gladiators return?
Oh, God, I'd love to do it now.
You're saying you'd love to do it if you can. And what about if they decided not to do it with you? Would you have a role?
No, what I do now is I do 45 minutes of workout with the weights and I do 45 minutes of MMA training. And I push myself very hard now. I jump, leap, swim. I do everything. The fitness is as important to me as the weights. The skipping, the sparring, the leaping about. I've got these lights where I don't know when they're going to go off and I put them quite far apart and they go off randomly. They don't go off unless you touch them. And I'm jumping about everywhere trying to do that. And it just gives the mobility and the agility there. You know, I'm 68 years old, but I don't want to lose that agility. If I did come back and they wouldn't have me as a gladiator, I'd love to be the compere. I'd love to be the presenter because I think I could be better than a normal presenter because I've taken part in the actual show. When I say to him, how do you find that game? Was this X, Y, and Z tough? I know how it was like because I've done it.
Well, I'd be wanting to pull up a seat if not be part of it too, Mike. It's been an absolute pleasure. Let's do it again soon.
Okay, guys, thank you so much. I hope I didn't go on too much and I hope I didn't tell you too many stories.
There we go. The hunt for Wolf is over. It's taken us 2 series, but kudos, producer Paul. Such a great interview. Loved it. So many stories and just, he's still got the passion. Like, he'd still be a gladiator today. If he could. Yeah, I was just blown away with it. I kind of feel a bit sad now because like the hunt, you know, I've been building up this whole time for this hunt for Wolf. And I know, Di, you've been looking forward to having a chat with him as well, haven't you?
I have. I really have. Do you know what it felt like? Coming home. I don't know whether I've ever really felt that Gladiator Arena was my home, but so many of my dreams were achieved and fulfilled there. And it is like something that creates the shape and the very form of a big part of your life. It is the arena itself, it is Nigel, it's all the other gladiators and the original team, but in particular Mike Van Wijk as being Wolf, because we had lots of really lovely chats, and I think you got the sense of his warmth and how he's kind of laid back on the outside, but deep inside he'd be back in there like a shot, as you said. And there's a part of me feels like I've just gone home by spending some time with him again.
I loved how he obviously enjoyed being Wolf so much, and you guys listening to this GladPod won't have been able to see, but he had in the corner of his room a glass cabinet of his Gladiators memorabilia, and just to see that on display, proudly showing his family and his kids who they wouldn't have really seen him as Wolf, but to just see that it was still to this present day that he's so proud of creating Wolf and being him. Because one thing that came across for me, that even though kind of being Wolf was a little bit panto at times with his interactions with the crowd and G-Force and the contenders, it was still really authentic too. And I don't think that anybody could have played a part that he did and still be so genuine. And it was still so different to like all of the like WWF wrestlers and stuff at that time. Wolf was different to all of the other gladiators, but he wasn't trying to be a wrestler kind of style character within the gladiators world. He was Wolf and there wasn't anybody else like him, and I don't think there'll be anybody like him again. I don't think anybody could do it as good as him.
I agree. I think there'd be contrition and a sense of, oh, that's so contrived. He was the original.
Absolutely. And I don't think anyone would be able to have followed him. And it'd been interesting to see if his impact from his time at Gladiators, whether it would have been as iconic as it perhaps is, like perhaps yours is, Di, even though you weren't there for the duration. If he had left the series early, what do you think, Paul? Do you think the fact that he was there for so long kind of sealed his legendary status, or do you think he kind of already gained that in the first few series?
I think he gained that in series 1, to be honest. I think as soon as he stepped foot in that arena and his character came out, and like I say, not only was it his character, he was a capable gladiator. And even though he was the oldest of the bunch, which is crazy because now I'm an age of what he would have been when he was joining Gladiators, which is just crazy to think because it doesn't feel old at all. Whereas he was always spoken about as being like the oldest gladiator, but he was very capable as well. And the fact that he did from show 1 to the final show and competed against people who were a lot younger than him, I think shows what a true athlete and a legend, like you say, with the character that he'd created and all of the awards that he'd won as Entertainer of the Year and just the legend status. I think if you stopped anybody in the street now and said, name a gladiator, it might be Jet, but it'd probably be Wolf, to be honest, I think.
And Di, for you, what I loved about this chat was that normally it's very Q&A, so it's almost like, we're us three asking the questions to that person, but Wolf was asking questions back to you, Di, and testing your memory as well, which I thought was brilliant. There was definitely such a great connection between you two.
Why, thank you. Yeah, it was such a joy to literally reconnect with him. There is so much that we can share and still will share, no doubt. So definitely we've got to have him back to unpick a whole amount more. What you see is what you get with him. He projected the big bad wolf, and I was even thinking of his theme tune just then. And we needed a big bad wolf on the show, and it was panto brought to life in a really new and different medium on the show of Gladiators. And I don't think anyone could have done it better.
Well, that's the end of series 2. What a way to end the series. We finally tracked down, hunted, and then spoke to Wolf. Thank you to producer Paul for arranging all of these incredible interviews, and as well for digging out all of those incredible clips that we're able to slot in during the chats, because they really do lift each and every episode. And it's great sometimes to hear the gladiators or the contenders or whoever talk about a certain moment and then find that moment, because 9 times out of 10 as well, I find that the memory's spot on in terms of what was said and when and stuff, but it's nice to hear it, that throwback as well. And Di, thanks to you for co-hosting again. And for me, you really are the podcast in terms of bringing a new dimension to what we can get out from our guests, because you've got the sort of two-prong attack here of having the memories of being with them and knowing them, but also what you're doing now. You are inquisitive by nature. So therefore, we do tend to get a lot more out of our guests, I think, than perhaps if it was just Paul and I. But as we're now fully in the swing of the countdown to the 30th year anniversary. Can't believe I'm saying this. We are hopeful and we are looking forward to recording series 3. So please do let us know who you would like to hear from in our next series. Producer Paul and I have got some ideas about maybe some special episodes that we could do. But Di and Paul, I'll come to you first. Di, who would you like to hear from in the next series of the GladPod?
2 immediately spring to mind. Sorry to be greedy. Of course, my lovely friend Kate Zodiac, when she's ready, of course, but I still share a lovely friendship with this gorgeous lady who's doing a lot for fitness still with kids and teenagers in schools across the country. But also, I'd love us to talk to Kenny Warwick, the producer. Just like the giant that Nigel was and is to the show, Kenny was always there in the background with a lovely smile, but fierce inside with what he wanted as the producer of the show to bring into everybody's living rooms and lives.
And for me, well, I've got a list of obviously guests that I would love to have, but I think at the top of that list now is Lightning. I think we need the queen of gladiators on here. So I would urge all of the fans to reach out to Lightning and try and get her to come on the GladPod and relive all of her memories. And then from a personal point of view, I would love Falcon as well, because I think she was such an underrated gladiator who is such loved in the gladiators community, and she is just a lovely, genuine person. I know that we've tried to make that happen in the past and it hasn't come off yet. So Falcon is one for me. And then I love to chat to the makers behind the show as well. So somebody like Stephen Adnett on the costumes was a great one for me this series. I think next series I would love to have Muff Murphin, who created the Gladiators music and the incidental music for all of the events. I think he will have some incredible stories and could hopefully even perhaps share some of the music from his archives if he's got that ready. So Muff Murphin would be on my list as well, amongst lots and lots of others, but those are my top 3.
What is mind-blowing with that is that you two have just listed people that I didn't have. I had Lightning on my list, Kenny Warwick, yes, but the top of my list was John Anderson and Fash. I mean, none of us said the same people.
The more you think about it, I mean, they're the obvious ones. I mean, for me, that's so obvious, I didn't even mention them, but thinking that we've already bagged them, but of course we haven't. Guys, we've got our work cut out for Series 3. Also, there are some mega Glad fans. There's a guy called Tony Foxton who's done a huge amount of support for the show from the moment I started, and I'd like to be able to pick the brains of people like him. He knows every detail about Stephen Adnett's work and, you know, what it was like growing up watching the show, like yourself, Paul, and the memories they still have. So maybe we do something around getting you guys who are listening in collectively, maybe on a few of our recordings, and just do some Glad fan spots.
Totally. And I think as well, like you say, just springing off my mind, we've got all of the G-Force people, we've got international gladiators, like the list, and contenders as well. The list is endless, and I think that's what makes the GladPod so exciting, because just when you think you've got all of the main gladiators covered off, there's a whole host of others, even such as Fox, who she was with the show at the later series, but she was actually a contender in the Wembley live shows. So she has such a journey, and I would love to like kind of get in there and figure that one out as well. So yeah, the list is endless. I think it's just about making it happen. And yeah, I think Series 3, we've got plenty of people to talk to.
So those are the people that we want to hear from in the next series of the GladPod. But what about you? What have been your highlights of Series 2? What have been some of your favourite moments? And yeah, let us know who you'd like to hear from, and we'll see if producer Paul can work his magic. GladPod@gladiatorstv.com is the email address you need. And don't forget to keep commenting and liking and sharing all of our posts on Instagram, Twitter, and our Facebook page.
Good competition, good spirit, great sportsmanship as both contenders show mutual respect. Join us again next week for the ultimate challenge, the might of...